Hare Krishna. We are fortunate to have among us an exalted guest, His Holiness Bhakti Vasudeva Swami from America, born in Nigeria. Swamiji joined ISKCON in 1984. He holds a master's degree in philosophy and education. Hare Krishna.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
Nigerian born and raised in different spiritual tradition, but now a world religious leader of ISKCON. Swamiji, how did you, Swamiji, take this spiritual path? Basically, what attracted you to Krishna consciousness?
Thank you very much. These are very pertinent questions. As a child growing up, I was intrigued with a number of questions, and these questions were unanswered. I make inquiries from family members and at also my church, because I was born in a Christian fold, but my questions were very much unsatisfactorily responded to. So as I was growing up, I remember once when I was 20, my mom told me, "Hey boy, you are a big boy now, go into the world and find out answers to your questions." So I took that as a great opportunity to be able to explore. And later, a few years later, I got in touch with the devotees of the Krishna movement, and I bought some books by their founder, Acharya A.C. Bhakti Vasudeva Swami Prabhupada. When I read these two literatures, I was astonished by the exposition, and I was so much intrigued by the information there that those two books just answered the questions that were bothering me right from my childhood. So in this way, I was attracted to this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and I decided to be part of this movement to also help people to know better their ways and their future existence in this material world.
Swamiji, the philosophy of International Society of Krishna Consciousness presents a unique view of the world, this world, in which relationship is a fundamental principle. In your opinion, what is this unique view?
The unique view of the Bhagavad Gita in relationship to this world is that we are all part and parcel of God. We call God Krishna. And it's amazing that if we do understand this principle of Bhagavad Gita, in fact, the preliminary understanding of Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna mentions Mama Evanso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, which literally implies or means that every one of us is part and parcel of God. In other words, we all belong to one great family, God's family, Krishna's family. How do we treat family members? How do we treat our brothers and sisters? How do we treat our cousins, nieces, our aunts? If we look at the world based on this unique principle of a fundamental relationship in all nooks and crannies and in all leanings, in all races, in all creeds, then basically we will be able to liaise and have a good rapport with each other to further develop harmony in society. Why? Because if we have a basic principle that we are all belonging to one family, the efforts will be geared towards unity and harmony in that family. This is why we see the Bhagavad Gita as a fundamental literature which is the pivot for peace, harmony, and sustainability.
Swamiji, Bhagavad Gita is a world-famous religious text and is all about creating the very future of a human society, dealing mainly with actions like Nishkam Karma Yoga and so on. These actions, are they impersonal or are they personal?
This is, again, a very relevant question to this discussion, because when we talk about the fundamental teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, and your question is, these actions, are they personal or impersonal? Look at it. Actions, by definition, the generic term action means someone is in play. And so here we have, first of all, before we come to actions, we have choices. Then we have decisions. And then comes action. Now, our choices, decisions, and actions, we are solely responsible for these. And because we are human beings, we are personalities, all of the Bhagavad Gita is about personal relationship. For instance, in the Gita, Krishna was persuading Arjuna to be very personal and to be decisive in executing his duty. And therefore, fundamentally, the actions being talked about in the Gita, or the choices or the decisions, are basically their personal phenomenon. It's not impersonal. Some people tend to interpret the Bhagavad Gita as an impersonal epic, but no. Who are the actions or the actors of the Bhagavad Gita? Lord Krishna was there. Arjuna was there. The Pandavas were there. The Kauravas were there. And so these are all personalities. How can we say actions are going to be impersonal when actions basically are derived from personalities? Therefore, people who try to misinterpret and miscommunicate the information of the Gita, they don't seem to understand the essence of the Gita and who is the personality behind the Gita. Sometimes we hear people say, we accept the Bhagavad Gita, but we don't accept Krishna. So it's like saying, well, I accept this program, very nice, it's a nice program, but, you know, I don't identify with the host. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, actions of the Bhagavad Gita that is being talked about is all based on personality, and therefore they are personal effects.
Okay. But when we talk in today's world, Bhagavad Gita and the youngsters of today, is Bhagavad Gita always relevant? Is it relevant in today's life?
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita is very relevant at all times, because even for the youths, that's a very nice point you raise here. For, you know, I've been traveling around the world, and one of the unique things that I found among youths is that a number of the youths, they are gradually drifting from the path of spirituality, and they are becoming more and more prone to violence and criminal activities. Now, in the general theory of crime, for those who study criminology up to doctoral or master's level, you understand the general theory of crime. The general theory of crime stipulates that all crimes and antisocial behavior, sexual misconducts, or whatever it is, they are simply due to low self-control. Now, the Bhagavad Gita advocates high self-control, and therefore we find that the Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to the development of society. Today, it is. In the past, it was. And in the future, it's always going to be. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita is so important for our social, economic, political, domestic, and interpersonal developments. Okay. So for the youths, for instance, I have a number of youths all over the world, and what I basically do is to teach them how to raise their values, how to raise their consciousness, and through the basic principles of the Vedic literature, specifically the Bhagavad Gita. Now, there is one powerful weapon that we always tend to bring to the background, and that weapon is love. Now, if we don't understand who the individual is, how can we say we love the person? See, if I look at someone based on their physical appearance, if I don't know their essence, then it will not really make any meaning to be able to develop love for that person. But if I understand that that personality is just beyond the physical manifestation, this body you're seeing is made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, and then there is a subtle aspect of this body which is constituted of intelligence, mind, and false ego. The false ego, the mind, and intelligence, they are the carriers of the soul. So we are not just these physical bodies only. If we understand that we are the spirit soul, that element, that spiritual element, which connects each and every one to the Supreme, then it is important for us to know that even the youths can actually become improved in their character development through some definitive spiritual cultivation. So yes, the Bhagavad Gita is very relevant to youth development.
I was talking to you earlier. Swamiji, can you tell me if the youngsters of today, are they going towards the path of spirituality?
A number of youngsters are inclined in spirituality, especially if you go to countries like in India, or even America right now, a number of youngsters are interested in spirituality. The snag is that because a number of these youngsters do not cultivate spirituality, they don't have that resistance to temptations. To say I am spiritual or I like spirituality is one thing. To practice the tenets of spirituality. I'll give you an example. In the Hare Krishna movement, we teach basic principles, which involves what I will call sonic therapeutic intervention. It's an intervention because this process of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It transforms our senses, it purifies our senses, purifies our mind, and therefore it connects us to that Supreme Spirit or Krishna, and it enables us to be able to resist temptation. In other words, this process of mantra meditation, calling on Krishna's name, one of the positive side effects is that it helps us to resist temptations.
In this iron age, the Kali Yuga, how can we regulate our lives with proper sadhana or devotional practices?
Yeah, self-regulation, self-determination, these are actually social science principles. So sometimes we think they are, spiritual principles only, but these spiritual principles have given rise to social science theories. For instance, if you go into the theory of self-regulation, it is emphasized that if we don't regulate our lives, we are going to face some ruination in due course of time. Therefore, how do we regulate our lives? It is by dint of spiritual principles or following a particular part of sadhana. Sadhana means spiritual practice. For instance, in our sadhana, we get up every day, we go to bed early. Why? Because the best hours for rejuvenating this physical body is between the hours of 10 and 12 in the night. We go to bed early, say 9:30 or at most 10 o'clock, and then we rise early to be able to do our sadhana, do our meditation, do our chanting, before we go out to our different jobs or to schools or to engage in domestic duties. Therefore, to regulate our lives means we have to become effective managers of time. If we effectively manage time, then to regulate our lives becomes very simple. And if we are regulating our lives, we will be happy. Why? Because first, social scientists have come up with reports that the best hours for productivity, for instance, is in the early morning before sunrise. The same principle that is given in the Vedic literature, that we call it the Brahma Muhurta hours. That is the best time to be able to cultivate spirituality. And so if we use the early morning hours to do our chanting or to embark on our Bhakti Yoga, the science of devotion to God, we will amass lots and lots of spiritual credits. And therefore, it is interesting what you've raised, that self-regulation, yes, self-regulation is very important, but we have to be able to integrate effective time management in our lives, because we are doing so many things. We have jobs, we have to attend to our family needs, and we have to manage our homes, etc. We have also a network of friends. Therefore, if we effectively manage our 24 hours, self-regulation becomes a concomitant factor. So, people should understand, now, if we abuse time, nobody will call police for us, okay? If you abuse a human being, they will call police, okay? But if you abuse time, no one calls police for us. But the laws of nature are so stringent that we get police and we get some reactions. So self-regulation is so important. If we minimize it, we will suffer some consequences. Sometimes it results in depression, because then at the end of the day we find out we have not been able to accomplish so many things, and we feel sad at the end of the day. Imagine when you feel sad when you're going to sleep. It's a bad sign. And therefore, yeah, we need to effectively manage our 24 hours so as to become self-regulated in optimizing our daily activities to create a viable future.
Swamiji, being a world religious leader with the Hare Krishna movement, you are also a scholar of international repute in the social sciences, as you mentioned earlier. A number of your published works feature a unique integration of the spiritual and the secular.
Yeah.
How do you manage this integration?
Yeah, it's similar thing to what I just said here.
Yeah.
That, you see, for you to become, first of all, understand, in calculus, we have a section of calculus which deals with integration. Calculus is a very difficult subject matter in mathematics. But integration in calculus is even so tough that people sometimes even students of calculus, they leave the class because it's so abstract and difficult. In the same way, integrating the secular and the spiritual, or secular and devotion, could be so difficult. But like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentioned that by practice and detachment, by regular practice, we'll be able to do all of this integration. And if someone tells you integration is easy, then he or she has not tried it. It is always very challenging. But by practice and detachment, we will be able to integrate this. What I do basically is that I don't spend any minute of my day without utilizing it in something that is going to be beneficial to myself and to society. And therefore, again, it comes down to effectively managing my time to be able to amass that integration of my secular obligations, secular activities, my research projects, and my devotional adventures.
So does it mean that if we are leading a spiritual life, we are detached from the world? Yeah, we should detach ourselves from the world. Is this?
No. We should detach ourselves from the results of our actions.
Yeah.
Because the tendency is, we do something and we're expecting the results. Hey, tell me the results. But when we do something, we should understand that. If we even help someone, we should understand that what we have done for that person, the good work we have done, we will get a positive response. We'll get a positive result. So we should not worry about the immediate response from the person. Okay, so but when I'm talking about detachment, it means we should be detached from the results of our actions. We should do because we understand that we are going to get some positive reward afterwards. Not just immediately, but afterwards we get. In other words, life is like a boomerang. When you throw a ball to the wall, the ball bounces back to you. So whatever we put into the wall, we will always get a feedback. Detachment here implies we should not be worried about the feedback. We will definitely get it. We should not be worried. Oh, what is it? Give it to me. I did those to you. What have you done to me? That's what I mean.
This is the main cause worry.
Yeah. Okay, I love you. You're not reciprocating, man. What are you doing? What's wrong? This is
exactly.
We are attached to our actions. We're doing some good job, but we are attached to the results. Who went, hey, I did this to you. What about you? Get me something. So it becomes like a business. And sometimes we extend this business mentality to the service of God. Service to humanity, we are business, we like business transaction. Then we extend also this business mentality to, when we're serving God. And so we have to be detached from the results of our actions.
Okay. Every action has a reaction,
after
after all.
Every action, like the laws of physics says, every action has its equal and opposite reaction. There is nothing we do that is unchecked. Everything is being monitored and we get a feedback. Okay. But doesn't mean that there shouldn't be any police system. The police system is to help us to check things in place. But whether there's a police system or not, we will get the feedback to every of our actions and deeds. Surely. Yeah.
How can we define our identity in this dark age? Yeah. Our identity from a spiritual perspective, is it different from the material perspective? Yeah,
a spiritual identity is completely different from material perspective because, for instance, I give you the implications of not really having a proper understanding of our identities. Now, what is happening in the world today is what I could attribute to identity crisis. But identity crisis, how? Because there is a crossroad of negative events and even, for instance, discrimination, gender discrimination, age, race, whatever, is due to identity crisis. We fail to understand our original identity, our spiritual identity. If we understand our spiritual identity, like Krishna mentions in the Gita, Mama Evam So, I still will refer to that verse, Mama Evam So, Jiva Loki, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Krishna mentions everyone is part and parcel of him. In other words, we are spiritual sparks, part and parcel of God, part and parcel of Krishna. If we understand this principle, then we'll be working towards harmonizing our relations. If we don't understand the fact that we are spirit souls, If we think that, for instance, okay, I'm a big scholar, okay? So, hey, look, I'm a doctoral researcher, man. Who are you? Hey, I'm such and such, you know? So we fail to understand our real identity. So these material designations, without the spiritual designation, without the spiritual identity, creates so much of crisis. We will evaluate people based on their physical appearance or the color of their skin. Look, this is the cause of all the trouble in the world. Not understanding our true spiritual identity is the cause of all the crises in the world. Therefore, we should go back to the beginning. Do we want peace in this world? We should go back to the beginning. If a child is in college and the child fails to understand the mission, the vision, and the goal of his being in college, how will he focus on his studies? If we fail to understand our mission, our goal, and our vision in this world, in other words, we fail to understand our pristine identity, how can we have peace? We will use every opportunity to marginalize, to bastardize, to abuse people, and to minimize people. Therefore, yes, our spiritual identity is so important for our sustainable development.
My last question for you, Swamiji. How can we overcome the negative effects, the social evils of the modern world, and maintain our unity in diversity simultaneously?
Yeah, it's a very simple thing. Again, it boils down to insulating ourselves from the bombardments of the illusory energy. How do we insulate ourselves? That is why we do this mantra meditation every day, okay? We are living in the world, but not of the world. How? Because we insulate ourselves from the negative energies of the world with this mantra meditation. So, spiritual cultivation is what can help us to insulate ourselves from the negative effects of the material world. Without spiritual cultivation, and let me give you a gross example. The former director of the International Monetary Fund, he was sacked from his office. Why? Because of penetration of the illusory energy in his life, in his comfort zone. He was in an hotel in New York, and he got attracted to a maid. And he got fired. He was put into prison for attempting rape. He had a beautiful wife who is even richer than him. So this is lack of, this is what I would call spiritual bankruptcy that causes people to be, in the Gita, Lord Krishna mentioned to Arjuna. Arjuna was asking, what is it that causes people to sin against even their better judgment? So Krishna mentioned that it is lust only. Now, we tend to think that when we lust after someone, that is love. There are two things, lust and love. There is that natural attraction between a man and a woman. It's like an iron and a magnet. Can we say that if an iron is attracted to a magnet, then there is a love, a principle there? No, it's just a natural force of attraction. So when a top shot becomes attracted to someone for illicit sex, does it mean that there is love? No, it is attraction. There is a difference between the force of attraction and love. If we don't have spiritual principles, then we miscue. Therefore, yes, the way to insulate ourselves from the troubles of this material world is to be able to get that internal energy to protect us. And that internal energy could only be there to protect us if we associate with that internal energy. And that is the more reason why those of us in the Krishna movement, we chant this Maha Mantra every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, try this and you will really relish your life. You will enjoy your life.
Any message for our younger generation?
Yeah, the message for our younger generation is that the future of society depends on the youths of today. And therefore, if the youths are able to become positioned in self-leadership, and self-leadership cannot just be gotten from the blues. Self-leadership comes with, like you mentioned, self-regulation. If we regulate our lives, regulating our eating, our sleeping, our exercises, everything that we do, then we can be situated in the mode of goodness. And from that mode of goodness, we will be able to expand our awareness and develop higher principles of character development and be able to lead society when the time comes. Therefore, the youth must understand, if they love themselves, they should be involved in spiritual cultivation. That is the only guarantee in Kali Yuga to be protected from the negative effects of the modern age.
Thank you very much, His Holiness Bhakti Vasudeva Swami. Indeed, it was a great pleasure to have you in the studio today.
My pleasure.
Hare Krishna.